Okay. All right. I have got the video from last week. I just haven't posted it on YouTube yet. But once I get the videos caught up, they will be right there. Okay. That'll be right in that line. Okay. And you get to this from inside Canvas. If you go to Canvas, it's right at the very top. It's a redirect tool that takes you out to my website, ongoing notes and whatever. And it basically takes you to the same location. Okay. So tonight, last week, I don't think we got into the Jupyter Notebook, did we? No. Now I'm going to show you a couple of ways to access this machine. Okay. The first way that we'll be doing this is using the Jupyter Notebook, and I'll explain what we can do with it. And then I will show you the command line version using SSH and how to connect. However, we have a problem. You've heard me talk about DNS resolution and DHCP and all that good stuff. Well, what's happening is when you are off campus, you can type in https://jmkll.org and you'll get to this nice, lovely screen. When you are on campus, it won't work because I will show you why. NS lookup jmkll.org takes me to this address, which is external. Yeah, this is the Linux plan. Our network does not let you go out and come back in on that external IP address. So to access the Jeremy box on campus, you need that IP address. So you have to use 10.18.171.11 HTTPS. Okay. And it's going to squawk at you. Invalid certificate. Go ahead and say, yes, accept, unsafe, proceed, yes. Because what's happening is it's using the IP address and the certificate is valid for the domain name. So when you're off campus, you won't get that error. Only when you're on campus. So it'd be above my pay grade, but I can explain the problem. So tonight, type in https://10.18.171.11 and you get this login. Now, what login are you going to use? Well, you've got an email address, right? It's your first name and 6 digits. So you put in your first name, followed by those digits. And then on the password, you type in Linux Rocks 231. Okay. Now tonight, I want you to get on the box because we're going to do hands-on stuff. Okay. We're going to be poking around on the command line. Okay. And I will be showing you a few things about Bash and what Nano is. I can't remember if I have Nano or not, because that's what Test Out teaches. I usually take it off the computers because Nano is, I would say it's worse than Notepad, but it's like old WordStar, if you remember WordStar. It uses a lot of weird combinations. But the reason I bring out VI and the VOT editor in the Unix classes is that there are many tools inside of the Linux ecosystem that use the VI bindings. Your JKLM keys actually move things around. Okay. All right. I'll show you I'll teach you survival VI tonight. Okay. And So we're recording, and that was a Slack. I wonder if it's one of current student saying, oh no. Let me see here. See if they're saying, wait a minute. Okay. Oh, there we go. All right. Okay. Different topic. Okay. So go ahead and log in. Once you are logged in, you should get you're going to have a different interface now. Okay. And I'll use my login.
Question. What did you say the username was for each unit?
Your username is the first part of your email address. So it's first name and the 7, 6, whatever numbers it is. And then the password is Linux Rocks, upper L, upper R. So here we go. Boom. Let me type in exit. You will get a screen that looks like this. Now you can change the theme to light, dark, or night. And night is like when you're in a like late at night. It turns into more reds, so it doesn't mess up your redness. Last class said dark was better for the back of the room. So those of you who sit in the back row, bring your binoculars, okay? And we'll just go from there. So we'll use dark. Now, what is the Jupyter Notebook? The Jupyter Notebook is used in science and data science, in biology, in chemistry, in physics. All those wonderful disciplines that are not computer science. People use the Jupyter Notebook to crunch numbers. Think of Excel on steroids. You can write a notebook in Python, Lua, those are the only two I have, but there's about 50 programming languages you can put into this thing. R, Julia, all these hardcore data science tools for algorithmics and very serious statistic stuff. We are going to use it for this tool, the terminal. Click, and there you are. You have your terminal. And I'll make it bigger so you can actually see this. Now, everybody's going to have a, you might pop into this in a different directory. Okay. So I want to teach you a few basic commands. You may have already had them in test out, but I'm just going to do this as a kind of a refresher, reminder. There are tools, little things that come in handy. First one we're going to do is this one, CD. That stands for change directory. Everything in Linux is lowercase. It's case sensitive. Unlike Windows, doesn't care. There's only one thing in Windows that's case sensitive: the password. Everything else in Windows doesn't care. Linux cares. Everything is case sensitive. All right. So if I type in CD and type in pwd, it takes me to my home directory. So CD stands for change directory. PWD stands print working directory. So where am I? Where's my stuff? In the world of Linux, just like Windows, you have your file folders and you click, right? It opens a folder. You go click. You open the folder. You go click. There it is. How many have taken an attachment, downloaded it, edited it, leave, come back, and you can't find your file? Yeah, it happens to everybody. In the world of Windows, to fix that, nobody tells you this, is you change this to hidden items. You click on that. Hidden items. Now you can search on system directories that are created and stored while you're in email. When you do email, you download an attachment, it goes into a temporary directory that is non-searchable. So when you click on hidden items, you can now go look through that stuff. Okay,
Is that under the percent type data percent?
that's different. That's a path. That's different. Okay. All right. But basically, we got folders. So what do I have in this directory? I need to see stuff. All right. I use ls. That means list. List. So list the stuff I have in my directory. Now, I'll put that up here. List. And then there's this one man, MANLF. Man is, it's short for manual pages. I need to read the book on how to use the ls command. So let's type in man ls. And it shows you how to list the directory contents. And there is a gazillion options. And as you use this, I created this alias just recently called L1. L1 actually lists my directories. And it gives me a simple column. And it tells me if it's a file, a directory, if it's executable, what have you. And it gives me a reverse sort order by time. So my last file is my most current, which comes in real handy when I'm download stuff into downloads. I only want the last thing I'm working on, not all the other stuff to go look through. Okay. So if I type in ls -1 FRT, so my most current thing that I worked on is this ASM directory I created in the previous class. Okay. Now, if I want to see the actual time, I just say L. And then it gives me a lot. L stands for long listing and give me a lot of more information. And it says, oh, that's a directory. I can see it there. Or I can see this little slash. Now, if you're in Windows, these slashes are backwards. But I'm a Linux guy, Windows is backwards. Okay. So it's just slash. You get used to it. Okay. And then it tells you when I created it, how big the directory is. That's the default size. Okay. So these are the files I have in my current working directory. All right. So let's put that up there. Man, ls. And then there's just a bunch of flags you can use on ls. The one you will probably use the most is ls -l. Because ls -l gives you this. It gives you everything, and it's okay. Now I know what I'm looking for. Okay. All right. Now, we've just accessed the box by using the Jupyter Notebook to get to a terminal. Okay. You're on a Windows box. Anybody bringing a notebook? Windows. Who else is on a notebook? Just the two of you? That's fine. I don't care. We're going to do it this same command without the Jupyter Notebook. And I will show you how to access this computer from Windows, Mac, and another Linux box. Okay. Now, I will minimize all these. Windows, in all its glory, has finally decided to create an SSH client. Finally. It's still not ready for prime time. It doesn't support the config files, or it doesn't support X Windows. It's got a lot of shortcomings, but at least you can connect. Okay. So the way it works is you type in SSH, your username, first name, 7 digits, right? And on campus, you will use this IP address. Off campus, you'll use your username CMKL. All right. Okay. All right. 10, got 18, got 151, got 11. And it says, are you sure? You type the word yes in, not why. You have to type in actual yes. And now you put in your password. Okay. On Linux, Unix, as far back as I can remember, when you type in your password, there are no stars to tell you you're typing in a password. If there's a star, I can put in a shim and capture passwords. There's no way to do that. Okay. No stars. I typed in the password, hit enter. Ta-da! I'm now logged in.
That password or like the computer stuff?
Good question. You're using this password because you're using your username and the password that I created for you on the computer that's sitting in the rack over there. So you need that computer's password. Okay. Yes.
I'm having a bit of trouble getting the command prompt.
Control Alt T. If you're on the Linux box in front of you, just type in Control Alt T and boom, you get a command prompt. And then type in the same exact thing on Linux that you just did. I just did on Windows. SSH space username at 10 dot blah 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 blah. We are accessing the Unix box in the back room there, Linux box. Okay. This is how you do it all over the planet. You can get anywhere. I'm now on the box back there using Microsoft. And what I'm going to do is bring up a different tool that allows me to, oops, quit. This is a tool called Moab Xterm. It's a Windows-based tool chain that makes my Windows box here feel an awful lot like Linux. If it was up to me, I'd put Linux on this machine, but then I'd be the only person who could ever use this machine because not too many people on our staff even know what Linux is. Okay. So I am going to log in using this Windows tool. And I'll use this flag here, and I'll explain this flag in a second. This works from Mac. This works from Linux. This will not work from Windows unless you get this tool, okay? All right, let's do clear. Now, I'm going to show this. And our receipt down here. Well, that's pretty cool, huh? Xeyes is a X Windows app that my X Windows server, which is on this machine right here, goes to the X Windows client, which is back there. So it's backwards to what client server is most of what we talk about. This is not supported on Windows natively. Will they? I really don't know. You can do it, but most of the tools are expensive. You have to buy them. This Moab Xterm will let you do X without having to buy anything. It's a free for personal use type thing. All right, so I'll close this and close window. Now I'll go back to my Windows client. Type in exit. Do the same exact thing with the -Y. Log in. And type in Xeyes. It doesn't work because there's no X Windows server running in Windows natively. I can get it to work by using this monstrous tool here. It loads up a ton of stuff. Basically, it's a packed up version of Sigwin, if you're familiar with that. Okay. So X is the GUI inside Windows or Linux. When you get a Windows box, you get one GUI. You can change maybe the colors of certain things, but you only get one GUI. When you get a Mac, you only get one GUI. With Linux, there's about 40, maybe 50 different Windows GUIs that you can use. If you don't like the looks of one, you can get another one, or another one, or another one. You can use, I prefer a minimalistic desktop that doesn't use a lot of graphics power because I don't use it. I'm always in the command line anyway. But you can get desktops that are just beautiful. But I think they're a little slow, but on today's modern hardware, slow is a relative term. Okay. All right. And Xci. So I'm going to talk a little bit about X Windows. Now, today we're just going to be poking around on the terminal. And I'm going to introduce a few topics that you will use for the rest of your Linux career forever. And I will start with the very first one. Okay. Everybody logged in and you got your prompt here. So type in CD, enter. That should take you to your home directory. Type in PWD. You should be home, username, number. Okay. Now follow along. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you, once we get through a few of these commands, where they're all saved so you can actually copy them. Okay. So to start with, type in CD space bin, enter, and then do ls. There's a bunch of junk in there. You probably, here, let me do this. Let me do this. Let me log in as a different user. That's not quite so noisy. And if I'm going too fast, yell at me.
Yeah,
This is the class I go the fastest in.
I just missed the last prompt. It was CD space something.
Oh yeah, CD space, and you hit enter, and then you do so your CD space bin, and then ls. Okay. So I have a few things in here. Do you have the same thing, or is it something different? Okay. All right. In DOS, does anybody know the name of the file, name of the command that displays the contents of a file to the screen?
DIR.
Pardon? That displays the file folder. But if you want to take like a notepad file and display it to the screen, it's called type.
Yeah.
Type the word type. That doesn't work on Linux. It's called cat. Concatenation, and cat does the same thing type does with a whole lot more flags. So you type in cat stars and you see what is going on here. This is bash. This is the programming language bash. Bash is quirky, arcane, painful, but oh, so useful. Okay. Way better than batch files. Back doors open. Yeah. And so we get our bash file, and what this is actually doing, this bash file is going to run. Now, when I was first learning Linux, in my day, it was called Unix. I could not, for the life of me, figure out how to make a shell prompt run. But I never had a Linux class. Most of what I've learned is by the flat forehead method, where I bang my head against the wall until it's flat. And I finally figure it out. Because when I got into tech in the Central Valley, there was nobody to talk to. Because there was, what do you when you say, yeah, I do some programming, what do you program? Like, really? Well, late 80s, early 90s, not a lot of people knew what programming was. Now people kind of know what programming is. Okay. All right. Here's what we do to make a program run inside of Linux. It needs a few criteria. It needs the shebang line. And that's the way it's pronounced, shebang, because the exclamation point used to be called bang. From the old mainframes, you'd write in a job control language statement, and to make it run, you would put bang at the end of it. So it's called bang, not exclamation point. Okay. You could call it exclamation point. Nobody's going to care one or the other. They know what you're talking about. But in our world, shebang is a requirement to make this work. When you have a Windows Word file, it has a dot something, right? Excel has a dot something. Access has a dot something. Windows doesn't know any better. What happens if you rename your Excel file to a Word file? Doesn't that make a glorious mess? Haven't you done that? If you haven't, go do that. Change the suffix on your files and see what happens.
When recovering to accidentally deleted the files that are returned are not returned in the same manner in which they were deleted.
Yeah.
They're indexed.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying to recover deleted files on a very active disk is painful at best.
Oh my God.
And you can do the same. Linux has the same type of tools, but it works differently. But in the world of Windows, you tell Windows what program to fire up based off the suffix of the file name. So when you just click on a Word file, what's it do? It opens Word. You click on an Excel file, opens Excel.
Or in the equivalent.
Yeah. Linux doesn't do that. Linux uses this shebang line. So I can name my file anything I want. As long as it's got the right shebang line, it's going to bash. Or I can make this Python script, a Lua script, or Z shell, Bourne shell, corn shell. There's like, I don't know, 20 different shells you can use. And there's scripting languages all over the place. There's BC, the one we were doing in class earlier today. And you put BC at the top and you can run a script that has the BC programming language. Did we go over how many programming languages we had last week?
Yeah.
99 bottles of beer. Well, go look at that one for bash. And look at the code inside of it and make it work. I'm going to show you the steps of how to make your little script work. Okay. First thing you want to do is edit your file. Now, you can be saved hours of pain and anguish by using the Jupyter Hub. I'll do that first. By using Jupyter Hub, I can go to, let's see here, file. let's go to, let's see here. What do I want to do? I think I'll exit this for the time being. All right. So I want to create a text file.
Emma, what was the command that you to get out that you just typed in?
Exit
Exit, literally just.
or Control D.
Thank you.
Exit, quit, buy. One of those three almost always works, except in the old school mail, which I will teach you how to use. Nobody uses it anymore, but that gave me a really nice raise. And I'll need to show you why using old school mail can be very helpful. We're going to create a simple text file by clicking on this, okay? And we are going to write our very first bash shell script, right? You can follow along with me. It's going to do the typical hello world. That's all it's going to do. Nothing fancy. Always start with the shebang line when it comes to anything interpreted. And my convention is the second line always has the name of the file in it.
So it says bash in the first line because you're writing a bash script. Okay.
Yep, there's a correlation there because what happens is in Linux, it reads the file into memory and it looks at the shebang line and just decides what program to run to actually execute the statements. Okay. Best way to think of bash is a way to queue up your keystrokes with a lot of looping capability, and it supports arrays and all kinds of cool stuff. All right. And I'm just going to call this hello underscore world. That's it. This is all we need to do. Echo hello world. Now I'm going to put an echo all by itself and an echo all by itself. And you do not need to do this, but I usually put some sort of end of file marker so I know I'm at the end of the file. This is a convention that kind of comes from the old days. Well, I'm kind of from the old days. Okay, so it's a habit, it's kind of ingrained. And because sometimes you'll get code that's not very well formatted, and there's a statement, and then there's 5 pages of blank lines because that particular tool doesn't care about blank lines like HTML. HTML doesn't care about white space too much. You can have very messy code and it still works. Okay. But this is a note to me to say, hey, that's what I want to do. All right. Now what I want to do is rename it. Okay. So I want to save this. Let's see, how am I going to do this? Now, this interface that we got is called Jupyter Lab, and it's brand new to you as of this week. It was the Jupyter Notebook last week, but due to all those issues, they connected the new box, not the old box, and the new box wasn't quite ready for prime time. So you're working on a box that I haven't quite fully provisioned yet. But this particular error is beyond my pay grade. I can't fix that. Okay. So let's save this file. Let's see how this does. All right, let's see. Edit, view, file. There we go. Save text as. That's what I want. Control Shift S. Notice it's giving me something here. VPY/ untitled text. I don't want it there. I want to put it where I want to put it. So I want to put it into bin/hello underscore world. And then I hit save. Oof. Okay. So there it is. It's saved. What's this launcher look like? Terminal, markdown file. Let's see if I can find that. Oh, there it is. That's cool. Control Shift F. This is a new interface to me. I'm not too familiar with it. I will be. I put it in the bin directory, right? So if I click on the bin directory, should I find my file? It says hello_world. Now double click. Look at all that junk. That's not what I want. I want to go up one. Good. Don't want to do that either. That do it? No, that uploads it.
No.
No heading. I'm sure.
Click on the little file thing.
That's it. So
The
there.
little file thing that's right there.
Oh, and then,
No, down, left, from there, yeah.
oh, there we go. Then that goes up one. I want to put it into bin. There we go. Yeah, that looks right. There's a lot of stuff in bin.
You go by last month.
No, that's slash bin.
Right.
That's let me do this. Here.
Did you find it?
Yeah. I did this yesterday and I can't remember what I did.
You can change the last modified. I'll put this as the first one since you saved
You're
it.
gonna have to yell at me.
Oh, sorry, change to last modified, click on last modified. On the right, and
Oh.
it should be at the top, there you
There we go. And that should be what we did. If I double click on it, it should bring it up on the, you can edit it. Open with, open new browser tab. There we go. Let's see what the browser tab does. Well, that, I downloaded it. I didn't want that. Oh, well, here we go. When all else fails, use the terminal. So here's the terminal. And let's take a look for hello world. There it is. Now, this is what we need to do to make it run. In Windows, you have a PowerShell script or a batch file, and it either ends with a .cmd, and you just click on it, it does its thing, or .bat, which is the old batch style, and it does its thing. There's two ways to make this run. We can type in bash hello world, and this will make it run. This is great for testing. Notice the two blank echoes that I put in there. All echo by itself does is it puts in a carriage return. That's all it does. All right. Now, if I want to run this automagically, I have to change the permissions. What are the permissions on this particular file? All this stuff I'm talking about is in test up. Okay. I'm just introducing it at different random error intervals. So if you don't see it, you're like, oh, how am I going to remember this? Well, you'll see it again in test up. Okay. Yes.
I somehow have two versions of Hello World.
That's fine.
How do I get to mine? Because when I typed in bash hello world, it did not go to mine. It went to the other.
They didn't do what you want to do. Are they named exactly the same?
Yes.
Rename one of them. You rename by using MB or move. And the way it works is, and I'll go ahead and move mine. You move hello world to hi world. Now, if I do an ls minus L on H star, anything that starts with an H, what do I get? Well, hi world, there it is. See those funny things there? Those are your permissions. This is actual octal. You got 3 bits. 0 through 7. So you got 3 bits. Now, right now is read, write, read, read. And what that says is 6, 4, 4. Ancient history, binary. When you have 3 bits and it goes here, how much is this one worth? 1. That one is 2. That one is 4. Bingo! Yay! That's the max we can get. All on. This is how permissions are stored in Linux. So we need to do something to change our permissions. Now, the way this, we'll get into this more later. I'm showing you what took me weeks to learn is how to make this run by itself. So to speak. Because we have to change the permissions to make it executable. And that's simply done by saying chmod change mod plus X hi world. Now, when I do my ls, what did it do? I've got X's in there now. That means it's executable. So to run this, oh, I guess I can make that bigger. All I do is dot slash. Dot slash is important. I'll explain that. Now, since I know that the bin directory is in my path, now, what did we just do? We created a simple shell script that said hello world. We put it into our bin directory. We changed its permissions. And we ran it. We ran it 3 different ways. Bash space file name, dot slash file name, and file name. Why did the last one work? Echo $path. Kind of hard to see, but notice I have a bin directory in my path. Windows has a path statement too. So does Mac. You add things to your path so files will run, so you can find stuff. Windows, when you do a simple little script like this, it will natively run out of its core directory. In other words, you don't have to put a dot slash in front of it. It just works. You cannot run something in a file, say like I have a new file called temp, TMP, and I put a file in there and I want to run it. I have to tell it to run from that directory. That way I don't get mistakes happening, right? So because bin is in my path, this works. Now, what am I going over? Lots of stuff. What I just showed you took me probably 2 or 3 weeks of banging my head against the wall to figure out how to make a simple bash script executable. I didn't know who to talk to. I finally found a book that said, oh, that makes so much sense now. But the problem was, you don't know what you don't know until you find out you don't know it. And if you really don't know, you don't even have the question to ask. I didn't know how to ask a question. So when I didn't run into somebody, I said, how do you make the equivalent of a bash script in, and oh, you just write it and you make it executable. And how do you do that? Chmod. That's what it took. So a lot of this stuff is simple once you know it. But in the beginning, there's I like to describe learning Linux and other programming types of tools as a hysteresis curve. This is Windows. Pretty darned easy until you run into a problem that even Microsoft can't fix. And then your butt's on the line and you're going to get fired to fix it because trucks aren't shipping and invoices aren't printing. No money is being made. That's when Windows gets really tough. Linux looks like this. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard for a while. And then it just gets easier. It's a hysteresis curve, okay? Kind of not, that's not a perfect. Let's make it a more accurate hysteresis curve. Let's do this. This is a hysteresis curve. The learning curve is very steep. It levels out and goes up, okay? Yes, it's a steep learning curve, but the benefits are awesome. The stuff the CMOD thing, I learned that back in the late 80s. Guess what? It still works. How much of Windows that you did back then still even works? All right. There's a few things. There's a few things here and there. The command line, a few batch programs, but so much else has changed. Their security profiles, all that stuff has been bolted on to make it more robust. Okay.
So, two brief questions for you. The first question is, what do you consider the best practice of running? Would you consider changing them out and making it executable best practice?
Yes, you have to, or it won't run.
Okay.
Yeah, you just make that part of the thing. And as far as best practices versus not best practices, I'm just in Linux, there is always 10 right answers. You just need to pick the right one that works for you. Like how many flags are on LS? Almost every letter in the alphabet. There's a lot of them. Are you going to use them all? Probably not, but you'll find a few that work really well for you. And those are the ones that you want to use. Same with everything else. Okay.
You put in chmod, what? Just
Plus sign.
Was it plus sign?
Yeah, that's all we did. We typed in chmod space +X and then the name of the file.
So is the +X the reason why it became an executable?
Yeah, the +X means add executable to this file. Now we'll get into the deeper bowels of this fun stuff. Of these things here. Because we have something called owner, group, and everyone. What this is saying is that the owner has read, write, execute. Anybody in my group has read and execute. Anybody on the computer has read, write, execute. If I want to make this to where I'm the only person running it, I would change it to 700. Then you could run it. There's an advantage and a disadvantage for doing that. This machine is set up so you can have your very own vanity plate in cyberspace. Sort of, kind of, not quite working because of that. But in essence, you have a directory underneath your username called public_HTML. You can access that from anywhere on the globe. And this will be fun to try. Try it from home and see if it works. My hunch is it probably won't because of this issue here. Where should I write it? All right, let me erase a few things and then I'll show you how to access this. All right, so when you're off campus, because then it's more likely to work off campus. you will type in HTTP. Okay. Now, I'm going to add a few things to this that I know would work, i.e. a month ago on the other box. This box I haven't got fully provisioned, so I'm not quite sure it's all gonna work. But I'll show you what should work. Okay. You will type in jmkll.org / I want to do something else. :80 / the :80 for the 99% of your web browsing, you don't care what that is. But that is a well-known port that HTTP runs on. Okay, this is all part of networking. Okay, so I want to go to my specific public HTML directory that has an index.html in it. So I put in this tilde, your username. So it would be whatever your name, your first name, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 / and it will default to typing index.html for you. And it should bring up the website. Now, that probably won't work on campus because what's wrong here? DNS resolution. So we need to change JMK or to this. So if we change it to that IP address, with 11 and port 80, we're forcing the web browser to look at port 80 because doing what I'm doing, I'm kind of breaking the rules of a normal website. A normal website, you'll hit the website, call it google.com. It will hit port 80, automatically redirect you to port 443, which is HTTPS. That redirect happens automatically. I cannot put the Jupyter Notebook on any other port except 443. So I'm actually running two different websites. One is the vanity plate that shows the Jeremy Lab, and two is the Jupyter Notebook. Okay. Most normal people would never do that. But because of the constraints I have here, I get to work around it. Okay. And I do this kind of stuff because I find it interesting and it keeps my skills sharp, you know. Not that I ever want to go back to 80-hour weeks, but it makes it a little more interesting because you have your own website. That's pretty cool. But can you get to it? Well, that depends. You should be able to. So if you open a new browser, I'm curious to see if this works locally or not. HTTP, and I will do JMK. Whoop, nope. IP address 10.18.171.11:80/tilde BKP/. Let's see what happens. Yeah, works. That is my very basic static website. Ta-da. So it worked. Now, what did it do? What kind of magic just happened? Web 101. HTML looks like this. Not much to it. Lots of pointy brackets. Ad nauseum. Okay. That's it. Okay. Your HTTP is a web server I'm using Apache that runs on the Linux box in the rack. You have a web browser on your platform of choice. You hit this directory, it goes to your public HTML directory and loads up index.html. Okay. So, did it work for you?
Negative.
No, it's
No. What did it do?
forbidden, you don't have permission.
What did it say?
This was forbidden.
You do not have access to this resource and you're using Gabriel. Let me check. Now, did it work from the?
No, it didn't work.
It didn't work.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, what for you?
Did anybody get it to work? Worked for you. Oh, how cool. All right, folks. Real world. Web doesn't work. How do we fix it? What are we gonna do?
Isn't that why we're in the class?
Yeah, if everything worked, they wouldn't need us. This is why we get the big bucks, right? Well, you'll get the big bucks. I won't. Okay. I'm going to take a quick look. And you were Gabriel, right? I'm going to log in here. And I'm going to use Tux here.
Mine was Hello World. If you were named says I will.
All right, let me do this.
All
right. Now, folks, what I'm doing is I'm actually moving myself into the administrator role. And in the world of Linux, we call that root. Root is the administrator, okay? And I know the root password, so I can get to it.
I can access the site that's under DKP, but not my own.
Right, and I'm pointing to this. I'm going to show you what I think the problem is, and I'll show you what we need to do to fix it. Okay, I know nothing until I know something. All right. Oh, yeah, that's true. Yes, it will be recorded. So I have to be my DKP user to do this. And that is this guy will let me do it. All right. Home. Now I'm going to change directory to GKP and I'm going to look at the permissions ls-l of public. Okay, that's what index is. Read write, read write, read write. Now, what is the permissions on the actual directory? Public underscore HTML. All right, I got to go up one to do this. Oh. Can you see a difference?
The X's.
This one works. And who else said it worked? Okay. Oh, it worked for you because you went to mine at DKP. Yeah. But if you won't go to yours, it won't work. How do I want to fix this? Let's see here. UMask. Let's see. All right. I'm going to be Gabriel for a minute here. Which one?
854 674.
Okay. And I'm going to do ls minus L. Read, write, execute in public HTML. 644, that should be okay. All right. Are we ready for a fix?
Right. Okay. Good.
Let's see if it worked. May not work.
Negative ghostwriting.
All right. Okay. Now, when I look at, I may have to recreate the users because what the problem is this UMask. It sets the permission, the default permissions when you create a new file. And the permissions for Apache web server to display a website needs to be, I think, 755 on the directory and 644 or 666 here. And if that's not working, then I need to look at my Apache configuration and make sure that user DIRs are enabled. Okay.
My thing says Apache /2.4.52. And then it goes under Ubuntu.
That's my tip.
Yeah, that's what I'm running it on.
That's
That's just telling you the version of Apache and the operating system it's on. I'm using Ubuntu Linux, okay, which is what's on all these machines. Okay. All right. Well, I have another thing to fix. And once I get it figured out, we'll talk about it next week and we'll move on. Let's go back a few steps on where's all this stuff that we've been doing. In Linux, our hidden files start with a dot. Okay. So when you say ls minus L, it won't show something that has a dot in it. So if I want to see a hidden file, I type in ls minus LA, which means all. And you will notice you have one called bash history. At your command line, I'm going to exit out of this one and that one, and type in the word history. Look at all that stuff I've been doing on this poor machine. What have you been doing? Type in the word history and see what scrolls by. This is a very effective tool. I worked with a fellow who will remain anonymous, who I said, what'd you do to fix it? Fixed it. He'd never say what he did. So what did I do? I wrote a shell script that harvested shell history and found out what he did. And I'm going, is that all he's doing? I can automate that. Because when a printer would go down, he took pride in being the savior and driving in and fixing the printer. Okay, forget that. So I wrote a web page that said, click on your broken printer. And it did the same exact thing. I didn't like getting phone calls at 2 a.m. Apparently he did. Okay. But this is showing you everything that you've done. It's your history. And in this history, you can actually rerun commands. So let's say I want to run 1300. I just say bang 1300 and it reruns that command. Okay. So the history is saved. Now you can turn all this off and you can remove your history. But I find it's a great way to say, what have I been doing on this box? And then also, oh, yeah, now I remember. It's a great way to kind of
2 weeks later.
and what was that command that I forgot? It took me 2 days to find. Oh, there it is. It also works great when you need to craft timesheets saying, what have you been doing for me the past month? You know, oh, geez, stuff. And you can't remember what you've been doing. How are you gonna justify a pay raise when you can't say what you've been doing? You know, oh yeah, this I used some here documents and saved a whole mess of money. I need a raise. Sometimes it works, and sometimes they say no, but sometimes it can work to your advantage. Okay, so the history is just that. It's just the list of all the commands you've been done, and it will store them up to a certain point. And your user account usually stays active on this machine through this semester, the next semester, and then sometime around the summer, I rebuild the box and trash everybody's stuff. So when you leave the class, in your bin directory, you saw something. There were 3 files in that bin directory. What was one of them called? Pardon? Stars? That was one of them. We got 2 left. Go look at them. Back up my stuff. Go ahead and cat that file in the bin directory. And I'm going to do it from the command line. Change directory bin. And I don't know if I have it here or not. Yeah, I do. What does it do? It does some magic. Okay. What this is doing is the same old thing zip does on Windows when you say archive these files. What this does is it backs up all of your stuff from your home directory and puts it into a zip file called backups username.zip, and you download it. Does it back up your shell history? I don't know. I don't remember. I forgot what zip -r does. Yeah, no, it's recursive. And I think the default is to take hidden files too. So it should back up your shell history. Okay. Try it. Put it on your Windows box and decompress it and take a look. Okay. I forget, when is this class over? Is it 8:30? Okay. Yeah, 8:30. All right. Okay. So the first class is all right. I need to write that down so don't forget. Okay. All right. So we have a way to back up. Okay. Now bring out the big guns. That's Nano. Say hello to Nano. Get ready to say goodbye. Now I'm going to take it off the box. Those funny little things. This is a control key. So it's Control X to exit.
So when I was trying to do this on my home computer, I was using Firefox, and whenever I tried to hit Control T to execute, it would open up a new tab. Yeah.
Yeah, duh. This is why we're not going to use Nano on this box, because if you're on a Windows machine, all those shortcuts don't get passed into Nano. Nano is designed to be TTY only. That's it. Not anything. Okay. I'm going to torture you with VI because it works everywhere and it always will work everywhere. It's been around for ever. Okay. Now, in the world of VI, I want to write a couple of, this is what we call survival VI. Okay. There's so much you can do with this editor. You can do some pretty remarkable things. Now, The reason I have a handout I'll give to you all next week. I'll probably just put it on the website and you download it. But what's fun about it, it's from 1986 from SCO Unix, which doesn't even exist anymore. But they made their claim to fame by taking Microsoft Xenix and running it on the Apple Lisa and having 6 or 8 machines connected to it. And that's how they made their millions back in the early days. They are now completely extinct and gone. Okay.
Kind of like Edge.
So they don't exist. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a simple little VI file. And I'm going to show you how to edit, save, and exit. Now, like I said, there's 10 right answers to everything. In VI, there's like 6 different ways to get out of the editor. Okay. I like VI. I've been using it for years. It's second nature to me. And you can see when I'm working on other machines like Microsoft Outlook, there's WQs all over my emails. Dang it, wrong editor. Okay. All right. VI, and we're just going to call this junk.txt. Okay. So you just type in VI space junk.txt. Now, what happens? Well, it fires up this scary looking screen and it doesn't tell you anything. Nothing. VI is a mode-based editor. Most of your editors today are modeless. Now, what does that mean? Modeless is you type, drag, insert, delete, all within the same screen. Linux and VI works really well with 0 mouse. You have 2 modes, insert and command. So when you go into insert mode, every key on your keyboard becomes what you would expect. When you hit escape, it puts you into command mode. And every key is a command to do something to your file. So there's 2 modes. It is a mode-based editor. Old school? Yeah. But I can tell you, VI has saved my bacon more than once because you can actually use VI on an embedded system and it will still work. If you're working on a machine that it's got this much chip and it's an IoT device and it's running a dinky little kernel, well, there's probably VI on there and you can actually manipulate the configs on that little dinky computer 800 miles away. Okay. So notice it says new. And here's the most important commands for tonight are going to be, so once we say VI, we're going to simply use lowercase I. This means take me out of command mode and put me into insert mode. You get a hint. Insert. That means when you type stuff in, you're typing stuff in. Okay. So now is a test. Okay. And there's a lot of cool things you can do with this. There's so much you can do with VI. But I'm going to stop there. We insert, type something in. Now hit the escape key. That takes you out of insert mode. And you are now back in command mode. And I want to save and exit the file. So I hit escape, :WQ. And this is lowercase, and it has to be WQ, not QW. And now if I type cat junk, there's my file. Here's another cool command, file. It tells you what it is. So some of the Linux commands we played with tonight are these. And we did file, added that one in there. We also use chmod. +sign X. And right now, VI has years worth of stuff built into it. The editor that is probably installed on your Linux of choice is probably called Vim. Vim is a very enhanced version of VI that has turned it very, very modern. It allows you to use a mouse. It allows you to do pretty sophisticated things like code folding. All the cool stuff you see in Microsoft Visual Code would probably pre-existed in Vim somewhere a long time ago. Okay. But VI, this is the basic. I for insert, and then escape, ESC, or command. So insert. All right. Now I'll show you a few more commands just to have some fun with this. So I will go back into junk here. There is something that is not really taught in a computer science degree. And one of those things is called regular expressions, but it's something that you use all the time in industry. Okay. So I'm going to use a regular expression to change a few of my lines and show you what the syntax is and how gnarly it can get. And it's something you get rusty on rather quickly. Okay. So I want to turn on line numbers. So I'll say set in U for numbers. There's my line numbers. That is not part of my file. Those are just added to my file. Okay. So it's just puts it on there. Now, the next thing I want to do is, let's say I want to change lines 2 through 6, substitute the beginning of the line with hello space / global. Oops, invalid range. I need the comma. Up arrow brings it back. Just like Windows, right? But what did I do? I hit escape, up arrow. This is a regular expression. S stands for substitute. Parrot stands for go to the beginning of the line and put in hello space globally. Okay. 2,6 means just work on those lines. Okay. So you can also do things just for the end of the line.
How do you copy a line of text?
Pardon?
Copy a line of text repeatable?
Copy a line of text is YYP. Y for yank. And you can copy a word by doing CW, paste, CW escape, paste, 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 paste. So CW means copy word. I can also yank a word. So if I say, take this is here and say, I'll say 3 YW, 3 yanked words. And now I've got it in my buffer and I hit paste and there they are, kind of, sort of. Way more than what you need to know. Okay. But it gives you a tremendous amount of flexibility. And where you set all this stuff up is this thing. I don't get into this a lot in the Linux class because you really don't need to know this. But this is a way you can set things up inside of Vim to do things like I have it set up for a spell checker. Show me all my blank lines and stuff. Show me the characters that are special. Do I have any hidden escape codes? True story. Big line printer, big fancy line printer. 1,200 lines a minute. They were running a route. They print, and all of a sudden it would go boom, see, everything would print into one big blob in the upper right-hand corner. They send the same print stream to another line printer that wasn't as fast, 600 lines a minute. It worked fine. Everybody was confused. And I said, what's the name of the customer right before it goes nuts? And what's the name of the customer you think is the first one that's printed? Well, guess what? In the customer order screen, there's an extended screen where people could put in information. And what they put in, I will show you this just to kind of show you how it works. I'll just call it test. Csci. Oops. Okay. Yeah. Now, what was that? What did you see down here at the bottom? I need escape, control V. Oops, yeah. See how it says F6? Now. F6. I'm sure. What's that?
F6.
That's F6. That's the actual keyboard escape sequence that gives you F6, whatever it's supposed to do. On that extended customer screen, somebody had pressed F6 in a comment section. This is where you want to go find the original programmer, hunt them down, and beat them to death. Because you should not allow crap like that into your database. Because once it gets into your database, it's really, really hard to get rid of stuff like this.
Oh my God.
And that escape sequence caused the big fancy line printer to go swoosh on every single print job after it got sent. Which is why, you know, you get the big bucks to find weird stuff like this. Okay. All right. So that's F6. You wouldn't know that by looking at it. Now, if I exit this thing and do that hex thumb thing we were having fun with last week, that's the actual escape sequence. 0A, 0A, 0A is me typing in return. So it's escape 5B, 31, 37, 7E, me doing return. So that was messing up the printer because it just sent over. And we used to have to know how to do things like this, where you could send over a specific escape sequence to a printer to load a font to print that font, because what was on your screen didn't match what was on your printer. Now we have WYSIWYG. What it looks on the screen is what it looks like on the printer. Oh, wow, that's cool. You know how much work that took? It took years of people trying to figure it out. Okay.
I have a story from my mom. She was talking about they were doing this huge database and they were replacing certain things in the database. And the program, they were all doing it like one line at a time. And nobody knew how to do it any other way. And so it was taking forever. My mom just got so frustrated and she's like, you know what? I'm just going to go find the book.
Yeah.
And she went and found the book and read it. And sure as hell, there's a way to, remove the whole page if you need to. And she was hailed as a hero.
Yep.
She
You know,
figured out how to
remember
replace the whole thing.
when we talked about diligent practice a little bit last week? In this career field, if you spent 5 hours a week on digital diligent practice, you are going to be better than your peers by orders of magnitude. Because your peers are waiting for somebody to tell them what to go learn, or they're waiting for somebody to tell them what they need to do. So take the initiative and just get really good. And then boom, you become the expert. And that's how you can ask for a raise. Use your shell history and say, this is what makes me good. Okay. All right. Now, that you want to work on that public HTML issue? Shall we try to work on that together?
Sure.
Try to figure out why it's not working, driving me crazy. All right, so if I change this directory, so public HTML is set to 755 as it is for you. Let me go back into the Apache mods. Now, what I'm doing here is real admin work. Our Apache web server isn't working for user directories. It works for me, but it doesn't work for you. So it's either going to be permission-based issue with the wrong UMask, or a configuration issue that I fat-fingered somewhere. I think that's probably more likely the case. Okay. So look in here, and I'll go into mods enabled and take a look. Now, okay, there we go. Mods available. So that means user is loaded. All right. And when we changed the permissions on yours, on your one file to 666, and it didn't change. On your command line, type in UMask. Yeah, just type in this word here. Exit. UMask. What's it say? Ooh.
It says 0022.
0022.
Yes.
Guilty. I set the wrong UMask for you guys. You need 2.
I have 2.
So
You have 2?
I have 2.
you have 2. You have 22.
I have 22. I have 22 as well.
22 too.
Who's got 22?
I've got 22.
Oh boy. Who's got 2? Oh, this is interesting. What did I screw up?
And yours didn't work, right?
Mine didn't work.
Yeah,
After I
okay.
tried
It didn't work either.
It didn't work.
Oh, how interesting.
Oh, this is fun.
I'm gonna have to go.
Probably is that, but there's also probably another issue there.
Mine works. And the permissions were, my UMask is 2, but you didn't change index. That was created by the ad user. And it was 644. And when we changed it to 666, it still didn't work. We have a quantity. Okay. All right. Dude. My bad. What this is configured as your home directory, your actual home directory. Look at the permissions. Read, write, execute for the owner. Read, execute for the group. This is a group. And for everybody else,
Nothing.
nothing. What's Apache need? It's part of everybody. Our home directories were created with the wrong UMask. Because UMask will create a anding oring situation. So when you create a file, it gives you the right permission. So when I did the add user, so what we need to do is change the permissions on your home directory in one place. Now, you're this guy, right? 85? I'm going to change your permission. And we are going to see if we get yes or nope, still doesn't work. Okay. Now, I'm going to change the permissions on this directory, and I want you to take a look and see if it's yes or no before he tests it. Okay, how many think it's going to be yes? How many think it's going to be no? Okay, all right. So as root, I actually have to do this, and I can do it this way. 755 on Gabriel 8. And did now try it.
Yes.
Yes, we have victory. So we can get everybody's permissions, and this is where I need to write a script, right? Why reinvent the wheel? How do I want to do this? Well, let me show you a real world way to do this. I usually write scripts like this as root. So I'll do that. And I put it in my bin directory and I call it fix. So I know I'm fixed something, okay? And this is a home directory, home terms, okay? Now, how do I want to do this? I have to go through each one of these guys and change the permissions, right? There's 1,000 ways to do this. So let's talk about it. What kind of makes sense? I have a list of directories, right? And then I need to run one command on each directory. What kind of loop would that be? A for loop. So let's use a for loop over every single directory and chmod it. Okay. And I'm going to do something first.
Now, I have a question.
Yes.
To check whether or not the permissions are already there, so it doesn't like cause a problem, because I'm 99% sure that'll cause some kind of error.
Yeah. With chmod, if it's already set to 755 and I set it again, no big deal.
Okay.
But I happen to know that there's only 2 of us,
Right.
And I'll just take those out of my list. So what I just did is ls minus l1 home. What do I have a list in? These are all your directories, right? So I'm going to put this into a file, and I'm going to call it fix list, fix.lst. You can name it anything you want. Linux doesn't really care what your file name is called. Okay. You can call it txt, you can call it anything. I like to use LST when it's a list. Okay. So now if I cat this fix list, there it is. Now I'm going to edit this fix list using my good old friend VI. And I would go down here and remove a few users that I know are already fixed and some other users that really don't make sense, like this OEM user. I don't need him. This one needs to be fixed, and so does that one. So I now have my list. Ta-da! Now, by home fix. Oh, I want fix first. Fix home terms. Now, I'm going to make it run in a subshell. So I put the shebang line on it, then bash. And then I'm going to give it the name so I know what I'm working with. Right. Fix home terms. delete that. Now, I will explain the syntax of this stuff as the semester moves along, because part of this class is bash programming. So tonight, I'm just going to kind of do the demo thing and get it fixed so you can see your home page. And then you can edit your home page using the tool of your choice. VI would be a great one to try and learn some VI. So here's how it works. I'm going to create a variable called list. I'm going to assign it something. Now, what's the worst that can happen? I hose everything and I have to recreate all your users. No big deal. I got a script for that too. Okay. Now let's explain what this is doing. The command cat fix.list is what I just ran, right? It gave me the list of stuff on the screen. Well, what this is doing is saying, go do that and take the results of standard out, which you'll learn all this later, and shove it into this variable called LST. And that can be anything. You can call it Max, Fred, Moon, whatever. I use uppercase for environment variables like this, just as a convention, but most people don't do that anymore. But it's case sensitive, so I have to make sure I keep it the same. And now I assigned it all your home directories. The next line for exit $list. $sign says what's in that variable and iterate over each one and tell me what's there. Okay, so what I will do is here put in echo $X. So it's actually going to echo each one of your names, your home directories, then cmod that directory. Otherwise, I would see nothing go by. It would just run and did it work? Okay. All right. And I'll do that. All right. What do I need to do to make it executable? chmod plus sign X. All right. There's a lot of fixes in here. And now I run it. Fix home. Whoops. What happened?
There's not a dash.
What directory is it should be? /home/name. Oops. So I'll go back in there and fix it. So what I need to do then is put it right here like that. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Now I'm telling it where to go in the file system and what to fix. Okay. Welcome to fixing things on the fly. Oh, no errors. All right, everybody, go try it. See if the magic happens. Yay! Yay! All right, you now have your website that you can build and create from anywhere on the planet. jmk.org from the outside and the IP address from the inside.
Is this different from the UMass you looked at earlier? Like this number?
We'll get to that. That's not the issue.
Okay.
The issue was what I did as the root administrator when I created your user. So the script I wrote that created the users is broken. So I need to fix that. Okay. So when I add new users to the system, I'll need to fix that before, or I'll have to do this to everybody else, anybody else I create. Okay. So now the fun part is you have the Jupyter Notebook that you can browse around and edit this HTML file. It's called index.html. You can change it, put stuff in there, and redisplay it. And you are now playing on the command line, manipulating a file, displaying it on the web. You can use this for VI. I would say learn VI, mess around with it. See?
I was gonna say, can you show us editing it in VI right now?
Oh, yeah, sure. All right, I'll go back to my user directory. Maybe I'll use Tux because his is much like yours. So SU minus Tux. This is why I want to change your password. Everybody's got the same password. So I'll show you how to do that first. All right, so let's do this. Do clear CD. To change your password, you type in PASSWD and you hit enter. You put in your old password. Flip it. You put in your new password. Flip it. Okay. If you leave it the same, you can, but other people might accidentally, because there's two Gabriels and the difference in their numbers is not that much. Somebody could trash your stuff by accident. And I've had students in the past who were, shall we say, impish and tinker with other people. And I don't mind if you play and tinker, as long as the other person knows it. I get very upset when you mess up other people's learning. Okay. Don't do that. Help people learn. And you say, hey, I bugged your account. Let's see if we can figure it out. Oops, I made a mistake in your account. I can't figure it out. Now we're in trouble. Maybe. Just let me know. Okay. No surprises. And then you just put in your password. Remember, no stars. And then in my case, I don't really want to change the password. And it's going to give me an error. Done. All right. Change directory public. I'll go to index. Also tab expansion. VII and hit tab. As long as there's no other file that starts with the letter I get tab expansion. And there it is. I have syntax highlighting set up in my .vimrc file. So you can see what it looks like in HTML. And I think this is relatively neat, new. I don't think it's the latest and greatest. I think this is HTML4. I don't think it's HTML5 compliant, but close enough.
You got there really fast. I saw.
Oh, yeah, that happens. Okay, you're in your directory.
Oh, I see the second one.
Yeah, so you want to change to public HTML, and then you do VI space index.html.
Thank you.
And then you go in there and change it to something. Don't you like how it changed echo to a funny color? Apparently, echo is some sort of a keyword in HTML, and I didn't know that. And then I have some hrefs down here that just print out. And I got some PDFs and it just displays them to the screen. And I hit WQ, exit.
This might be a silly question, but why is it only accessible on the Jupyter Lab terminal and the Ubuntu's terminal? Since I don't.
Why is it only accessible through the Jupyter Lab, but not through your SSH system? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
It is available through SSH if you are in the correct directory.
Okay.
The directory should be this one. So you should be home username public HTML. That's where your index HTML lives. So when you display this long, gnarly looking URL, it pops up in your browser and it looks all pretty. Okay. This is way more than you wanted to learn, huh? You learn all kinds of cool stuff.
That's fun.
This
Now your brain is half melted.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what it should be. And we have a lot of fun. Yeah. So go to W3 Schools. If you've never heard of that website, go to it and look up HTML and look how to do a flashing popsicle thing that was all state of the art in the 90s, where everybody put in popsicle sticks that were going bouncing up and down on their screen. Okay. Have fun with animated GIFs. the favorite icon, I do not know if it works from public HTML. I think you're only allowed one favorite icon per URL. For example, see that how Canvas has the funny little thing there? There's a Jupyter there. And if I go to my CS, I don't have anything here. I don't have a favorite icon, but if I go to phillipsd.com here. See this favorite icon? I think there's one of those per web directory root. I think, could be wrong, but it's called favicon.ico, and it's a dinky little PNG file that gets displayed in the tabs of the browser. Okay, so if we may experiment with that later on in the class, figure out how to do that. Okay, and also on this machine, your mileage may vary. I better hold off on this because I don't know if it's going to work by user. But this is MakeDocs. It's a static website generator. And what I do on my oops, I have to do this. Now I'm doing this from Windows just to show you what I can get to the box. And if I type in 210L, that's Markdown. Markdown is one of those little icons in your Jupyter Notebook thing. You can write Markdown and display it. Now, this is what I write when I write a website. I don't write HTML code by hand too much anymore. I use tools to help me. Like this is just it. And then I run a script that actually regenerates all my static websites and redisplays it like that. So let's go over here to 210 once it's done. There it is. So that looks cool, doesn't it? Now, if I go down here and view page source, you can say, wow, I'm pretty awesome. Look what I did. But I didn't do that. It's all part of the scripting process of the static website generator generating the HTML from Markdown. And there's like 35 gazillion million of them out there. Just search on static website generator, and you can find one that works with your language of choice. Ruby, JavaScript, Perl, C, C++, so on and so forth. I happen to choose this one because it's written in Python, and it's a lot easier for me to read it and change it. Okay. Now, wow, what did we cover tonight? We covered some chmod stuff. We fixed some bugs. We learned how to access the Jupyter Notebook by way of the terminal and also by using SSH. And we found out that Windows doesn't support X at all unless you have an extra set of tools. So on Mac and Linux, if you run Linux on your notebook, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend making Linux your only operating system. And you know what? You will learn it really fast because you will have to, because you got to make it work. And you'll say, darn, I'll have to reinstall again. Darn, I'll have to reinstall again. And eventually you'll figure out, what do I need to do to fix this so I don't have to wait 2 hours to reinstall it? Yeah, that's or in virtual machines. And we didn't get into virtual machines much tonight. I'll walk through that process next week. I'll create a virtual machine. How many different ways should I do it? 2 for sure. VMware is on this box, VMware player, and KVM on the server, maybe off my desktop. And maybe one other way, because VirtualBox works on Windows and Linux. But VirtualBox, as time progresses and Windows progresses, more and more things break. And they don't necessarily work as advertised.
That says JMKL.
Oh, yeah, you love my handwriting, huh? Yes, it's JMKLL, Jeremy Michael Kelly Linux Lab. Okay, so. And I think for the time being, just use the port 80 and HTTP. Okay. What this is saying is use HTTP protocol on port 80, but then again, I want to make sure you're going to port 80. It's kind of like being redundant, but what I've noticed with the modern browsers is that once you've done the HTTPS, that's stored in cache. And then unless you tell it specifically to use non-secured, it's going to go to HTTPS every time you go to the JMK or website. Okay. Well, your brains are all melting. I showed this in my last class. If you want to get a job, Google, Facebook. Here's a bunch of different tests, if you want to call it that, questions that they ask you. What recursion and dynamic programming, okay? And then it shows you what it is, okay? And the way these coding interviews work, depending on the company, it's whiteboard. They give you a pen and a whiteboard and they say, write the code. You don't get to use any tools. You just have to write it off the top of your head. That's mastery. You got to be pretty good to do that. Okay. Can I do that? No. I wrote a simple bash script and I forgot the /home/. Okay. There's a lot to know. Okay. All right. What else you want to stuff your brain full tonight?
I have a question.
Yes.
I tried to go on my phone to the jmkll.org
Yeah,
and it says secure connection failed.
of course it did. You're on the wireless signal. Wireless signal's on a 10 dot.
Okay.
What did we learn about DNS? Domain name service, port 53. Say it with me. Domain name service, port 53, DNS. That's what gives us an IP address to a name. What happens when you go to jmk.org on our current machine? Now, where am I? I'm on my phillipsd.com, which is a Linode somewhere out in Fremont. NS lookup. What IP is that? That's this one. External. Okay. I can exit. I'm on a DOS box right here. What IP address is it? What do we say about routing internal IP addresses to external? They don't let you do that. Our network, Palo Alto Networks, sees this and knows that, okay, we're going to go out to that IP address, but that IP address is actually one of our IP addresses. I'm not going to let you connect. So NS lookup on the 10 dot, which is where we are, should return 10.18.171.11. And then the name jmkll.org would work internally and externally. Okay. But because it's resolving to the same IP address, and it won't let you get to the external IP address by way of the internal route, you have to type in the IP address on campus. And whether or not that gets fixed, I don't know.
So at home, we can just do the .org thing.
Yep. From home or any place off campus, this will work fine. Or should. Let me know if it doesn't. On campus, you'll need to use the IP address. See? You can also use the external IP address from somewhere else if you don't want to use the name, okay?
Why'd you say earlier that we need to specify 443 the end of?
You probably won't have to from offsite. But internally, now that we're using, because I've got basically two different websites on the same physical box, using two different ports, one displaying standard HTML and the other one going HTTPS. Okay, so. All right. Brain's full. You think we should stop? Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Of
I
course.
brought up the source of the public HTML again for the VI.
Oh, yeah.
Can I see it one more time? The command.
Oh, you wanted to see what I did. Okay. All right. All right, I can do it this way. I'm in the lab here. No, I'll just use this thing. Okay, here it is. So I'm in the public HTML, do VI, and that's what it is.
Yeah, but what was the command for that?
Oh,
VI index.html. Okay, thank you.
yeah, I misunderstood what you were asking. Sorry.
I apologize.
So history. That's what we did tonight,
Thank you.
give or take a few things. Okay. And experiment with the backup, download the zip and see if your .history's in it. If not, let me know and we can change that backup file to include the hidden files.
Doesn't,
It does or doesn't?
well, I think so.
Okay,
I checked the manual and it said it does.
okay, good. Man's on zip, -R includes hidden files. Okay. Well, then it should include your history. So. And if you're interested in some of the darker arts of how all this is set up, let me know. Hey, thank you, everyone. Have a good evening and enjoy learning VI, doing some diligent practice. Okay.
What was it like? I read it, the seating, mine on the text, and then I put the hello world, it went fine, and I put the / hello world, and said that it was a bad, translation.
Oh, that means your shebang line. It says /bin/back.
Yeah.
Is misspelled and missing.
Oh, you know,
No space.
oh, you know.
So it's. Hashtag. Back. Black. Has the emotions.
That,
Yeah.
Let me try to. Let me go to see.
Mr. Phillips. You just didn't.
You do that. 18 P. //
So if you log into that from home, what are we?
That should take you straight to it and you get the login prompt. This doesn't work. Put that at the end of it.
Yeah.
What is this? Yeah, because I was having trouble going onto the website.
But it's posted on.
Is that
Yeah, that'll work from home.
okay?
This will work from home.
Oh, yeah.
But you'll need to turn on.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, the 10 pound.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah,
This
yeah.
will be something this one.
This should work from,
Okay.
anywhere off and not wireless,
We're just modifying.
completely off.
So if this were.
I was curious,
It's
but
$10.
makes sense, it has all of our.
Yeah, if you're on campus.
If we have Linux here.
It's just saying
then
you
why
want
we
to
need-
replace it,
Oh,
you
yeah.
interchange them.
Yeah, you just replace the IP address with.
Oh, yeah, 'cause you can't access those
Okay,
files.
thank you.
No worries,
Have a nice evening.
you bet.
And for the, we got a terminal, right, we use my own IP address.
I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah,
Does that,
yeah,
do I just use that or do I use the 10?
on campus, use 10.
10 okay.
Off campus, you don't.
Oh, no, no, on from the terminal.
Oh, from the terminal at home,
Yeah, to sign in.
you just do SSH, space,
Yeah.
username at SamGale port.
Oh, yeah.
That'll work. Or should work. Yeah, you know, it doesn't.
All right.
So
yeah, I'll let you know.
SSH space. You can use, if you're on a Linux box, you can use the dash one.
Oh, okay,
Dash
yeah.
Y.
And then it's like, why is it not updated? But, you know,
That's why.
Bitcoin on downloading, Linux, Ubuntu, right?
That's what I use here. It's just, it's a little gentler for users.
Yeah.
And dual boot's a great way to start. You'll mess something up and you'll have to fix a lot of things. I hate dual boot, you know, I'd rather use a virtual machine because it eliminates a whole big problem. Because the Windows boot INI thing, you have to go in and be an administrator and change permissions and then change the permission back.
Oh, too
Yes.
much of a hassle.
Yeah,
And for Thursday, May told me about meeting, right? For
yes, I will be there.
6:30, right?
Yeah, 6:30, 6:45, and I think we'll meet just here.
Just here?
I think that's what they were saying, because my assembler gets out about 6:30 or so. And because it makes it easy, because then I know security, and if I need to leave early for some reason, I can lock the doors and just leave.
Oh,
Which is,
So-
I can get away with that.
We can say in, but no one can get in, right?
Right, I can enable that in this room, but not in the magic box.
Okay. All right. then. Thank you very much. Then.
You bet.
See you
Have
later.
fun.
Yeah.
I just had a quick question on the homework and.
Yeah, sure.
I asked him and he said he did the same thing, but it worked for him. But when I do the nano command and then I must be doing something wrong here. Right? So, go here.
Alright.
Yeah.
Oh, you got it. Okay.
I go here and I say. And then what should I be doing to save this?
A control X exits and aborts.
So it gives me the option to save when I do.
Then it should.
And so if I say yes.
Yeah, that should be saved.
And now how should I get back to where I was?
Let you know about that too. You mean back to the prompt?
Yes.
Let's see. I would do the control X again and say no.
Okay, and then
There you go.
say, and then so
Now if
that should.
Cat, new file.
Like, right?
So let me see if I
And
can
then,
do that.
that's all I have to do.
Oh, you're on test out?
Sorry that happened.
Yeah.
Just.
I don't know. That is
Yes.
a
That's off.
mimicky lab.
Because he was saying on test out, it opened files.
Good, good. It's a great tool.
And I don't know.
That's a good question.
I don't know how to complete what they're trying to get. me to do.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what happens when you do an LS?
I haven't used it in a while, so see where you can find out about it.
I know what's wrong.
Yeah, that's something we'll have. to
You're no longer.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what happened to me.
Again, sorry about the
When I
class.
first did it.
We'll get you taken care of though. We'll find
Yeah,
you.
type in TWD, because you're in your home directory. You're there. Aren't you supposed to be in practice?
Yeah, CD port slash practice, or CD practice, practice.
I was just following the prompts.
Okay. Well, you did it right. Why it doesn't work, I don't know.
If you typed in practice to do what they said, if you follow the prompts, you're supposed to be in practice, not in.
New file, then you just move, find home. Here's another way to do it. Type in cat, space,
Mike.
minus
Oh.
greater than. And then my new file, or new, whatever you want to call it, new file, new file.txt. And hit enter. Oh, that's not even working.
Yeah,
It won't let you do redirect.
I'm not sure, like,
Now do an ls and see if that file is there. When in doubt,
the
use a
first
different
homework
browser.
assignment.
Yeah, I would just open it in another browser.
That would change things?
It probably will.
Unfortunately, even after 25
probably
years, it will.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be my first thing to try. Just open a different browser.
Yeah.
CompTIA.
The coldest room in our
Pascal.
building. My God, it's cold in here.
They have to keep the servers cool.
That's just an excuse. It's a
Oh,
cold room.
we have
I don't know who's been messing with the system, but we aren't supposed to be this cold.
In the module. There, you can start. with the-
nothing ending like.
Yeah, there's something in that one. Well, oh, there we go.
It's not coming.
Now, what happens when you hit launch test out? There.
Yeah, I'm studying it in here in Tenhouse driveway, but there's no way to access all these modules in the panel. It's the homepage of the.
See you guys next week.
House.
All right, take it easy.
Yeah.
So you're asking,
If I can access all these log works and lesson notes.
yeah, lesson notes are blank. Cause I'm
They're
putting it
blank?
in there. Yeah,
Okay.
lesson notes are blank because when, as an instructor, you can put in lesson notes, but every time you load up test out for the next semester, all those lesson notes get trashed.
Yeah, and also what about this?
Does that come up?
No, nothing. I need to launch it.
Yeah. Is it working or not?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I did this, so is it coming to use for scoring, grading as well?
I get to see it after the fact.
This out?
Yeah.
No,
after
because
the-
I have done this, I mean,
Yeah, there's a piece I have to push.
okay.
There's a button I have to
Okay,
push.
so there's nothing to work
Yeah.
on canvas, you just follow on test out?
Right, what I have to do
On the,
on a more regular basis, now that you've reminded me, is to click a button on the test out stuff as a teacher to shove the test out grades into Canvas.
okay.
I was gonna say,
So-
yes, wondering, 'cause
So
I'm like-
should I just keep going with?
Yeah,
test
just keep
out?
going.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Just flash through it, finish the whole thing.
Now I have a
Yeah.
question for you.
Have a good night.
Is it,
Take care.
they do the little quizzes and of course, if
Yeah.
there's something wrong, you know. Is retaking the test to get